Hi, I'm Robert Ferrante, the Chief Engineer and General Manager for the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. And my presentation will be on the early February storms and those storm impacts on what we call our joint outfall system, which is the sewerage system that we own and operate in the lower part of LA County. You can see the aerial map shows the highlighted white area. I'm not addressing Santa Clarita Valley or Antelope Valley, just the lower um, LA County area, and that includes roughly 5 million people. Over 70 cities are included in that, as well as unincorporated LA County. And the point of my presentation today is to talk about the specific impacts we received. I'll talk about the overflows that we had, the sewage spills that we had from our system that impacted our local beaches, and ways we can work with the cities that connect into our system, as well as the county, to prevent those spills in the future from similar types of storms. First, I want to give a little bit of background. You can see this is our joint outfall system covering, and you can see all of the blue lines are sewer lines that are maintained by the sanitation districts. The green is actually, those are sewer lines. There's so many of them, but those are from all the cities and unincorporated LA County that tie into the blue lines and then come to our treatment plants. And you can see that we, in our system alone, which is about 1,400 miles of sewer lines, we of course have the bigger sewers because we get smaller flows from the cities that combine into our system. We have over 21,000 manholes, but you can see the local manholes that are tributary that connect into our system, there's over 200,000. So it's a significant number of manholes, and that'll come in. I'll explain why in a little bit, why I'm talking and focusing in on those manholes, because that is the primary way that a lot of the stormwater got into our system and caused the overflows. So on February 1st and especially February 4th through the 6th, we received a lot of rain. This is data from our partners at LA County with respect to rain gauge data throughout the county. And you can see some of the foothill communities got over 11 inches, and even areas down in the lower LA County basin still got between 7 and 10 inches. So it was a significant amount of rainfall. And our system, our treatment plants are designed to receive additional flow during rainfall events. So just looking at how our facilities operated, our treatment plants all were online 100% of the time. They handled the record flow that came to them. Many of them saw records that broke previous highs. We had some minor issues, but none of those resulted in not being able to treat all the flow that came to them. Our pumping plants that are connected to our sewer system that move the sewage to our treatment plants, they were 100% online. We had no pumping limitations, so no issues there. And then our actual sewer, the pipes, we had no structural failures, and we had no blockages that would cause backups and spills. So our system operated as designed and was 100% online. We had no system failures. Unfortunately, we did have overflows, and you can see a picture of an overflow occurring on the left there. On the right, you can see the picture of the different locations that we did have overflows throughout our system by the red dots. We had 9 different spill locations. Most of the spills were in the 20,000 to 50,000 gallon range, but we did have one spill through a couple of our main lines that was in and of itself was 8 million gallons, so it was very significant. And of course, When we spill, those spills occur typically on roadways where the manholes are. They go into the storm drain system, and that storm drain system in this case ties into either Dominguez Channel or the LA or San Gabriel rivers. Ultimately, they make their way down to the Long Beach and City of LA harbor, and the beaches are closed due to the sewer spills. So what was different about this storm that caused these overflows? And I think a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you can see that we had an unprecedented level, and it was regional wide. It was throughout of street flooding. You can see a picture of Long Beach where it was, you can see 3 to 4 feet of flooding that submerged cars, and it wasn't just along the roadway. It was, essentially from house to house along certain streets. And you can see in the city of LA, you can see another street flooding incident, and you can see the worker there appears to be relieving the street flooding by opening up a manhole cover that's connected to the sewer. What that individual may be doing is uh, taking a road flooding and potentially turning it into a sewer overflow downstream, because the sewer is not designed to take all that water. You can see the little bit of vortex being created as it goes into the sewer. So I have some data here to relay to really show what happens to allow us to key into exactly what the cause of our overflows were. And first off, we have recently in the last few years added a lot of monitoring to our sewer system, either flow meters or a level, depth of flow level. And on this sewer line that's shown here in yellow, you can see a red dot at our manhole G105. And we have a level indicator in that location, the depth of the flow. And then that level is shown on the graph by the red line. And you can see um, January 30th, January 31st, the 2 dry days before February 1st, you can see a little bit of a diurnal pattern that occurs um, in that sewer. The flow picks up during the day, peaks in the evening, and then drops off overnight to do that same flow pattern again. And then we have, with the rain gauge data on a nearby gauge, those are those blue lines, and you can see it shows those are hourly rain amounts, and it shows the inches of rainfall. So when you get to 0.2, 0.3 inches of rainfall, that's pretty in an hour. That's a fairly intense rain event. And you can see on February 1st that as that rain came in, it raised the level in the sewer. And you can see it raised it fairly quickly. It peaked, and then as soon as that rain started falling off, it quickly dropped back down. And so the sewer was able to handle it on February 1st, and you can see there was some rain the second, some rain on the third evening into the fourth. The flows in the sewer really dropped back to where they were. There was very little inflow during those days, but then February 4th in the evening, the storm really started. It was intense, and it was intense for a long period of time. And you can see what happened to the level at that G105, that it started going up and it never came down until we had a spill a little bit downstream at G97 there. And you can see as part of the structure that the sewer manhole was part of, that it actually caused a little bit of road damage as well when the flow came out. And that location and another one was principally where we spilled out that 8 million gallons. You can see that as the rainfall abated a little bit and it dropped back down under about 0.2 inches per hour, that the flow in the sewer started dropping back down. And ultimately, even though it was still raining, the level dropped. And from this location, we overflowed for about 8 to 10 hours overnight. But once the rainfall slowed down, it was no longer overflowing, and our sewer system contained all of the flow. So, what is the mechanism that we were seeing these overflows? Knowing that the difference was the uh, wide regional street flooding we had. Well, here's a picture, typical sewer manhole covers. You can see they're metal, they're heavy, they're on a metal lip. They're designed to be able to support heavy traffic over it without failing. They're also designed typically with holes in them to allow utility operators to open them up as necessary for maintenance. The one on the left has a couple of holes. You can see the one on the right has a significant number of holes. They're not meant to be watertight. They're really designed to provide an access and to support vehicle traffic above them. So I have a little graphic which shows what we feel was the predominant mechanism of inflow into our sewer system. This diagram shows a sanitary sewer connected to a house conveying sewage. Manhole covers are typically in the center of the street at a little bit of a higher elevation than the edge of the street, because at the edge of the street is where you have your storm drain openings typically. And those storm drain openings are on the edge of the street to keep the road clear as much as possible. So ideally, storm water, rainwater goes into the storm drain system, sewage stays in the sanitary sewer system, and these never intermix. However, when we were having heavy rains and the street storm drain system was not able to keep up with the amount of rainfall and the amount of water coming in, and you headed back up onto the roadway, you're now in many locations where you have that street flooding, you're covering the sewer manholes. And as I mentioned, those manholes are not designed to keep water out. So you start getting water into the system. And that's where we saw a lot of inflow. And with the number of manholes we have and the amount of road flooding we have throughout LA County on that day, it was a significant amount of flow. How much flow? Well, in our whole joint outfall system, that I showed you, our sewer system, we measure our flows at our treatment plants, and we measure. And here you're seeing the peak flow that we saw on that given day, as well as the average flow. And you can see on days where we have no rain before that February 1st storm, we typically have a peak flow of between 460 to 485 million gallons per day of peak flow coming into the plant. The average flow, or the amount of flow treated in that day, you can see for those 2 days was right around 365 to 370 million gallons. On February 1st, it started raining. You can see our peak flow goes up. You can see the amount of flow we treated on that day increases. And on February 1st, we essentially treated an additional, or received an additional 140 or so million gallons of water. That was stormwater that came into our system, and we were able to treat that at our treatment plants. February 2nd and 3rd, the numbers fall back significantly. There was a little rainfall, so our peaks and average flow rates are a little higher. But what's really telling is what occurs on the 4th and 5th and 6th. You can see on those rain days that the peak flow on February 4th goes to close to 970 million gallons per day. It peaks at over a billion gallons per day on the 5th. And most importantly, we treated on the 5th 831 million gallons. So compared to a usual day of 370, 55% then, more than half of the water that we treated was stormwater that inflowed into our system. And you can see even on February 6th, we were still treating a lot of stormwater inflow. Here's another way of looking at that data. And what I want to point out here is why the street flooding was the predominant mechanism. That, as I pointed out earlier, at high rainfall rates and where the storm drains were not able to keep up with the amount of rain coming, and we had the street flooding, you could see even on February 1st, there was an increase, a lot of inflow coming in. Of course, I showed you before on February 5th, you can see that red level significantly increased. That's where we had the overflow from that amount of rain. But I just want to highlight on February 20th and 21st, we had rainfall, and it was a fairly decent rain, but it didn't even, it barely registered on the level in the sewer. We took in very little additional flow because at those rain rates, the storm drain system was able to keep up with the amount of rain coming in. There wasn't the street flooding, and therefore there wasn't that mechanism for the rainwater to get into our sewers. What can we do? And this is the big thing that I want to communicate to people. This is, we can fix this problem. These are a couple of kind of basic things, and a lot of these things you probably already know. Don't open sewer manholes to drain flooding. You're taking a road flooding problem and potentially creating a downstream problem that's worse. Could be a sewer spill, environmental issues, could affect private property as well. So could be a significant impact. That's one. Two, many of the cities in the county, I know you guys work so hard trying to keep those storm drains clear. That's an imperative before and during the storm. You can see this is a location that was flooded, and after the storm, you take a look at the storm drain and you can see that it had debris on it. So it's important to keep it clear, obviously, before a storm, but if somebody goes out and sees this road flooding, the primary culprit would be the storm drain not keeping up. And in many cases, if it's trash because an additional screen has been put in to catch paper cups and little bits of trash, that'll need to be cleaned, cleared out to keep the catch basins open. But the number one priority is to seal your sewer system. With all those manholes, with all that street flooding, that's the predominant way we're seeing water get into our system. And we have traditionally sealed our manholes for odor control. And we'll put in cork or rubber stoppers in the holes on the sewer manhole, and then we'll seal around the lip of the manhole. And our operators and maintenance staff carry this equipment with them all the time. So when they pop a manhole and open it, then they'll reseal it afterward. And we have rubber stoppers, and we have the necessary caulk or silicone to seal them, and we'll provide those to cities and the county as necessary. We'd also like to work with you. At times, it may be the inflow is caused not just by street flooding, but by illegal or incorrectly installed connections into our sewer system. And we can then either run a smoke test or a dye test. We put smoke in our sewer. If it comes out in at a storm drain, like that top picture for the smoke test, we know that there's a connection there. Likewise, we can do the reverse, put the inert dye in the storm drain system, and then if we see that in our sewer lines, obviously there's a connection there, and we can work with you. We have information on with all the monitoring that we're doing on locations where we're seeing a lot of inflow. So to at least advise you, hey, we're seeing inflow. If it's a known street flooding location, please seal the manholes in that area. If not, we can do these other investigations to see where the stormwater is coming into our system. We sent out a letter to all the city managers and city public works directors. Just to summarize, these were the things that we mentioned in there. I've already kind of gone over these. Keep the stormwater catch basins cleared. Train staff to not remove sanitary sewers. You're creating an environmental impact. Sewer spill is nothing, is not something people want to go through. Prepare in advance. Seal manholes, especially manholes. Start in areas that you know you have problems with street flooding. That'll go a long way. We can work with you on identifying those, but it's probably a good practice to seal any that you feel may be subject to street flooding. And tell us where those areas are, and we can work with you and see if they're problematic. That's the last one. I do want to let you know that we have the data and we'll have more and more data to assist. Our board has approved back in 2022 for us to add a number of flow meters. You can see indicated by these dots, we added pink flow meters as a pilot. We extended it to yellow flow meters, and we're going to be adding flow meters up in the northern part of the county to here soon. All of these orange ones as well. So we're going to have a really good handle on the different sewers in our system, and we'll be able to tell then the difference between our dry weather flows and then when a storm occurs and see what those multipliers are. And that'll tell us, hey, we have a significant problem in this location that's tributary to us from stormwater inflow. So in summary, just want to mention the overflows that we had were not caused by equipment failures. The cause clearly appears to be excessive amounts of stormwater coming into our system. And what was different about this storm was the street flooding, so water going in through our manholes. And we are prepared to work with cities and the county to minimize that stormwater inflow. So please reach out to us. We will also be contacting you as well, depending upon our staff's ability to get out. But if you know you have an issue, please call Andre Schmidt. He's our wastewater collection systems manager. You can see his contact information at the bottom, and we can prepare for these new storms. Some people call it the new normal, but we anticipate storms like the early February ones occurring again, and no one wants to live with sewer overflows. And to the extent that we can inform you of where those locations are, you might be able to address the road flooding as well in preparation for bigger storms. So with that, I just want to appreciate your time and watching this video, and please, we're ready to work with you to prevent sewer overflows as much as possible. Thank you.